Good evening, everyone. A total powered move in Nifty today, straight away from 23,555 to 23,907 at the high, and it closed close to 23,800. Now, to decode more about today's market, we have Arjit Garg, a SEBI-registered research analyst, and again, a huge fan of him of how he explains the global cues and all the global tensions, and it'll reduce the tension for us. So, Arjit, thank you so much for joining us, and let's get started.
Thank you so much for having me, Pradhaman. And let's quickly dive into how is the market today. So Nifty, the entire market, Indian market, had a really red show today. I would like to call it that way because over the weekend we discussed this on Friday as well that the market are showing positive signs, but it's a weekend. Weekend ka war. That this is something which I like to call it repeatedly. Anything can happen on a weekend, especially when we have the Iran and US war, or maybe some other countries are fighting. Anything can happen over a weekend, and literally that something very bad happened on this weekend. So what exactly happened over the weekend? So US Iran, they were going to have their ceasefire talks and their agreement, and the deal was some talks were happening between the two countries in Islamabad, Pakistan. Right? We all knew about it on Friday, that Saturday, Sunday when these talks are going to happen. Now, these talks did not go very well. The two countries, they could not come at a deal because Iran says US had some very bad negotiation tactics and they had very bad points. We could not agree to it. And US said that Iran was not agreeing to anything that we said. Now, both the parties, they would say wrong things about each other. Of course, they're at a war. So they could not come at a deal. Ceasefire was violated once again by Israel. So the ceasefire thing is not going very well. The talks that were planned to make this war stop and to have a complete ceasefire, complete truce, that was again not very good. It failed horribly. So what happened then? The U.S., the Donald Trump, the president of United States, he said that if Iran will now create a toll system on the Strait of Hormuz, we will also send our naval ships and we will also take toll of Strait of Hormuz, and we will close Strait of Hormuz if Iran has this toll condition. Now this is very bad for global markets because Iran क्या बोल रहा है? Iran is saying that we will allow some countries to access Strait of Hormuz. We just won't allow US and US allies. US is saying if we close Strait of Hormuz, we won't allow any country's ship to access Strait of Hormuz, which is bad. Iran is still allowing a couple of countries, which might maybe they would have some countries that would have access to the oil, and maybe that way the entire global chain won't come to a stop. With US this entire movement of closing Strait of Hormuz, the entire global crude supply and crude demand and supply, the entire way crude works, that is under question. Like what will we're again back to square one. The day the war started, everybody was in a big question mark. Okay, what really happens next to crude, to other precious metals? How will their supply happen? How will the ship movements happen? Over a period of 1 month, we got some clarity, like what is going to happen next, how will the ships move. There were some conditions laid off, but now again we are back to square one. Again the biggest question mark is what will happen to the supply, how will ships move, how will the entire Strait of Hormuz be controlled, what will happen next. This is the important question, and this is exactly what is driving not just global markets but our Indian markets as well. Like the entire volatility has increased tons. Like if we just look at the implied volatility chart here, and if I just remove these historical numbers, we can see IV is back at 28.27 again. On Friday's close, the last number was 18.85, but today that number is rising above 22 once again. If we look at open interest, once again the entire data has changed. Like on Friday, we were seeing that there were heavy put OI, which means like the people were selling their put options. They wanted the market go up, but now it's the opposite. There are more call OI. People want the markets to go down. They're pulling it constantly down. But the good part here is if you look at the charts here, now, before we dive into the important levels, let's quickly look at how did the markets really do. Nifty closed with a loss of 0.86%, around 200 points down, closed at 23,846, 842. Sensex closed with a loss of almost 1%, 700 points down at 76,847. Now, the important thing to look at here is Nifty opened with a loss of 2%. It was a huge gap down. One of the trades that we had given on, I had given on Zdvisor advisors was a call option which was trading at 160 on Friday. It closed at 168, and today that call option opened with a loss of 93%. It did not even trigger the stop loss level. It was way below that, 90% down at 2 rupees, 3 rupees. I had mentioned that it was a very, very high volatile, high risk bet at that time because today is expiry, tomorrow is holiday. And that is exactly what happened. A big gap down. All the call options, they were down to 1 rupee, 10 rupees. Options that were trading at 100, 200 rupees also were down to 1, 2, 3 rupees. But gradually, during the day, we saw a very good recovery in the market. And to be honest, the fall was not important. The recovery is something which is important. See, if the markets, say, suppose the markets are down 2%, and then the markets continue the fall, it indicates that there is more weakness. Markets are expecting something more bad to happen. Maybe something worse is happening once again. That would be the case if the markets were falling continuously even after 2% fall. But what we saw in the market today, the markets fell 2%, opened 2% down, but then we saw a really good recovery coming in during the day. Opened at around 23,600, made a day's low at 20,555, which is near our level of 23,500, and then went straight up. Multiple green candles, see the ek ke baad ek, and we went up to 23,850, created a day's high at 23,900. This is important. And again, वहां से जो last के two candles we are seeing that the red candles are there again formed after our important level of 23,850. So इस सब से एक चीज तो clear है that you have to watch the market wrap up sessions and you have to pay attention to the levels that we're talking about. But apart from that, what is also important is to look at the global markets. Like, okay, we now know what is happening in the market. We now know that, okay, 23,850 is acting as a good resistance. We know what the open interest is talking about. But to get a good idea around what's happening globally, that is also important. So we'll quickly look at the global markets. We are seeing that the European markets are all red. Asian markets are obviously red. That is why we were also red in the morning today. Nikkei, which is the Japanese index, loss of closed with a loss of 424 points, almost 1% down at 56,500. European markets, which are currently active, we are seeing the UK market down 0.3%, French market almost 1%, German markets also 1% down. So we're seeing almost all the markets are down. Global sentiment is negative. Our markets are also down, but for us, the sentiments are slightly negative. But the difference here is our markets are closed tomorrow. So maybe if something happens tonight, or maybe if something happens tomorrow, we will react to it on Wednesday. The good part here is global markets are open tomorrow. So we will know if the sentiments are improving tomorrow or not. The only negative or the drawback of this holiday is that we cannot trade and we cannot create any fresh positions tomorrow. All we can do is just hope for the best for what happens tomorrow. Right? Before moving ahead, let's quickly look at the sectors as well. Here we have IT, FMCG, auto, and oil and gas. Here, these are the top losing sectors for the day. Nothing in green. No sectors are in green. We only have losing sectors. So the competition is between who loses the most in today's market. Auto was down 2%. Now, something really off is happening in auto. So, global sentiments are bad. Everybody knows about it. The US Iran war, ceasefire, talks being failed, and the Strait of Hormuz part, that is one part. Let's keep it aside for a moment. Let's talk about what's happening in auto sector. So, everybody might have heard about this company called as Motherson, Samvardhana Motherson Limited. It's a Bangalore-based company which caters to almost all of the auto ancillary parts across the country. It serves Maruti, Suzuki, it serves Honda, it serves Hyundai, it serves M&M, and serves almost all the auto sector companies. Their job is to create ancillary parts, creating lights, halogen bulbs, headlight ka that glass part, windshields, several other car parts that they manufacture. The problem here is they have not been increasing their the salary or the wages for the entire workforce that is working for them in their factories. Their factory is in Noida. So what happened here is there was, if you are in touch with news, There are huge protests going on right now in Noida phase 2. That is the exact area जहाँ पे संवर्धना मदरसन का major manufacturing unit, the entire factory is right there. Now, what happened is over the past 1 to 2 weeks, these people they were asking for increase in wage from the top management of the company. Their request was very simple. आप हम लोगों को say you're giving us maybe X rupees, just increase it by some percentage so that it will be fair for us. We are giving you a lot of time. We are giving you overtime. You're not paying us overtime. You're not paying us salaries on time. That is not done. Their request was very simple. Initially, the management said, okay, we'll talk about it, we'll discuss it among our board and we'll let you know. Just work for some time, continue working, don't stop the work. We'll talk about it. But later, when the people came into to their shifts today morning, the management said it is how it is. We are not doing anything. We are not increasing your wages. जैसा है वैसा ही है. Either work or get out. So the laborers again, they're poor people. So they request for a hike. They really need it. If you say that करना है तो करो, otherwise get out. So they chose the option number 2. They chose to get out. Now, this was not as peaceful as we are talking about it. It was very violent. They set a lot of police cars on fire. They put a lot of other vehicles on fire. There was clashes almost everywhere. They set shops on fire, tires on fire, and it was a very violent protest. And this is exactly what is driving the entire auto sector down. We can see a lot of stocks. Let's talk about Motherson for that matter, because it's Samvardhana Motherson that started all of this. So we're seeing a gap down and a negative movement in the stock already. You talk about other auto sector. We talk about Mahindra and Mahindra, huge negative there. You talk about Maruti Suzuki, which was among our top recommendations in the previous weeks. Again, a gap down and a huge negative movement here in Maruti as well. So the entire auto sector is under pressure. IT and FMCG, we already know what's going on there. FMCG, we've been talking about it over more than a quarter now, that the growth is not very healthy in FMCG sector, be it HUL, be it any other company, be it Varun Beverages. The FMCG is struggling right now. IT sector, we already know what's going on. The entire AI thing which is there in IT. So these are the overall sectors and the reason why all of these sectors are in red. Reproduction. Yes.
Yes. So actually, in fact, in between, I wanted to ask you a main question, and he had already answered it without me asking. So basically, the question was, now there are a lot of uncertainties in the world. There are a lot of things that are happening over the weekend in a matter of hours or just 1 or 2 days. So how does a retail investor prepare for this? How does he, if he's an operating trader or he wants to take this up on his trading level? So where does he follow? And you already mentioned that if he follows our market wrap-up sessions, then he'll be updated with all of the information and he can make his decisions accordingly.
Absolutely. Not just the market wrap up session. Chalo, market wrap up, we do it after the market has closed at 4 p.m. Now, at 4 p.m. or at 4:15, while watching this live, you cannot really make your trading decisions. If you're in the market, say on Wednesday, Wednesday will come live at 4 p.m. Before 4 p.m., when you make your trades, if you have to make sure that your investments are risk proof, or maybe the news proof or Donald Trump proof for for the instance. So what you would actually do is you would hedge your position. Now what is hedging? Hedging matlab when you decrease the risk of your investment. Say for example, just as an example, because we talk about options and option trading a lot. So let's take an example. Suppose you're seeing that there is highest put OI at 23,800 strike price. ठीक है, पुट ओआई का वेरी सिंपल मतलब है दैट पीपल आर सेलिंग देयर पुट ऑप्शन. अब what does this indicate? That okay, put option का OI is a lot. You would maybe put option गिर जाएगा तो you would buy call option. ठीक है, you are saying call option हम buy करेंगे, markets are going to go up. Now this is a naked position or a single leg position. The best way to trade option is when you have multiple legged position. Multiple leg ka, if I have to compare it in a simple way, as a human we walk on two legs, right? If we start walking on one leg, we would trip and we would fall, right? The same way options work. if you create a single legged strategy, if you make a very naked, if you try to trade naked options, be it selling or be it buying, if it's a single leg position, it's a very highly risky position. मार्केट्स इधर उधर होगा, आपका पोजीशन इधर उधर हो जाएगा, आपका कैपिटल या तो वाइप आउट हो जाएगा या तो डबल हो जाएगा. You'll either become zero or you'll become a hero, right? That's the entire logic behind hero zero trades. So if you create a single leg position like the one that we're trying to make here, it's a very highly risky one. Now the question is, how do I manage the risk here? The simplest answer to it is create multiple leg strategy. एक आपने suppose you have bought a call option here, the other highest strike price at 23,850, the very next strike price, you're seeing that call OI is highest. Call OI high है मतलब call option का price is going to fall. मतलब put option will either rise or the markets are going to fall. तो आप क्या करोगे? एक आपने कॉल ऑप्शन लिया है, सामने जस्ट परचेज अ पुट ऑप्शन. इफ यू आर डूइंग a buying strategy, if you're going long both the ways, if you're purchasing options, then you've purchased a call option, now you purchase a put option, so that if the markets go up, your call option increases the value. This put option, maybe given that the theta decay is happening or not, the put option might or might not lose a lot of value. Either ways, you'll stay profitable. Or the other way, if the market falls, your put option will gain a lot of value. Of course, momentum aega, market is falling, put option will become zero. Your call option might or might not become zero. If we talk about our trade that we took on Friday, which was the call option that we gave in for 24,000. Now, if I can look at the option chain, okay, I don't have option chain available right now, but okay, in the next session we'll talk about option chain as well. So what really happened is today is expiry, right? 13th April, because ideally Nifty expiry happens on every Tuesday, but since tomorrow is holidays, the expiry happened today. What happens on expiry day is there's something called as theta. Theta tells you how how much is your option valued in terms of time. The time decay that we talk about, if you keep option over a week or over two, it will lose its value over time. The time value of money concept, theta talks about it. So if you try to maybe buy options on an expiry day, at the end of the day, that option is going to become zero. The option contract has to expire at the end of the day. So when the at the end of the day, if the value is going to be zero, even if it is 100 rupees, definitely that 100 rupees is going to become zero. So 100 ka, even if a single negative news is there, that 100 will come as close to zero as possible. Something which happened in our last trade that we gave. Now, the better way to trade that would have been if you purchased one call option of 24,000, same day expiry. Maybe sell a higher strike call option or purchase a put option. Because we have seen that the put option in today's session, opening के time पे, there were 200, 300% returns in those put option. Call option fell by 93%, but put option increased by over 200%. Right? So this way, if you create multiple leg strategies, you can win at the option game, and you can win and absolutely hedge your portfolio against any uncertainties that are going to happen. Now, this is highly useful if you're trading weekends or if you're trading a holiday session like the one we have tomorrow.
Got it. Got it. Arjit, so now we have discussed about the equities part, but what is the impact of this deal getting cancelled on commodities, especially Brent crude and crude oil?
Oh, yes, of course. Crude oil, we saw a huge jump in crude. Let me load crude futures on MCX first. A huge gap up was seen in crude here. You see, if I have to measure this, we closed on Friday at around 9,157, and we opened with a gap up of 4% at 9,500. Throughout the day, we've seen a good rally, upward rally here in crude. Now, if you have to see, okay, let's look at Brent first, and then we'll analyze the pattern that I'm seeing here. Let's look at Brent crude first. If you look at Brent crude here, once again, a huge gap up here as well. We closed at 96.15, and we opened with a 10% gap up at 104, 105. So once again, We were very happy on Friday that crude, oh my God, wow, it's below $100. But once again, the crude is above $100, increasing the uncertainty globally. Okay? Now let's talk about the pattern that we saw on crude oil MCX futures right here. Now, this is the 1 hour time frame that I've loaded the charts on. I'm using TradingView. It's a free platform. Anybody can use it. Open on crude MCX and you would see a very interesting pattern here, which we call as the double top pattern, also called as the M pattern. जो Gen Z investors हैं वो उसको M pattern बोलते हैं. People who are following the market from a long time, they like to call it double top pattern. Now, what happens in double top pattern is you see two tops. There is one. I'll show it to you how typical that looks like. So there's a support and there's a resistance. Okay. Let's color the support as in red color right now. What usually happens in double top? Prices would go up, they would come down. Not they won't touch the support, but they would just come down a little retracement down. Then the price would rise up to the previous level once again, and then they would come down with strong volumes and they would break the support and they would show you a down move. This is a typical double top pattern. Now you've seen the typical double top. Now let's come on to crude oil. Don't you see something similar here? The same double top. Maybe the lines are a little tera mera. It's not the straight resistance, but it's a slant resistance like this. If we touch the wick to wick, we are seeing a negative movement over here, a negative trend line. And as we have marked the trend line, we are seeing that the red candle here is moving already. So we are seeing that the trend line जो है यहाँ पे resistance line है, that is the correct one that we have drawn. And there's a double top pattern which is forming here, which means first top over here and the second top has formed over here. This indicates that maybe we can test the support level for crude oil futures on MCX over here. This is the exact level, the lowest point for the day today, and we had a support over here on 9th of April, which is Thursday. This means that crude oil might go a little down. What's important is this level of 9456. If 9456 is breached, if crude oil falls below this, then we can test a new level maybe in this range over here. Over here in these two levels are the levels that we might see in the upcoming days in crude. Not in upcoming days, maybe. Agar raat tak hi if the level is breached, then maybe tomorrow morning will not tomorrow morning, sorry, on Wednesday, we'll see these levels coming, right? So this is something important happening on crude oil. Let's quickly look at other precious metal as well. Let's look at gold futures. If we load gold futures and M6 over here, once again, we had a very beautiful trend line here. The trend line was being followed, but again, we saw a gap down here. Now, this gap down is unusual, but it is following the war trend that is happening this time. We have talked about this multiple times earlier as well. Usually, whenever war happens, gold, silver, platinum, natural gas, all of these precious metals and the precious commodities, they give us a huge rally. But ever since the war has started in March, in Feb 28, 1st, 2nd March, since that day, gold and silver are falling. And the same trend is being followed once again. There was a big negative news that came over the weekend. Monday, today, what should have happened? Gold should have maybe a gap up or maybe some positive rally. But no, instead of that, we are following the previous trend once again. Gold has given you a gap down and again it's consolidating in the same range. Let's check silver if silver is moving in the same way or not. We're seeing silver here and same thing happened in silver. A gap down and once again the same trading range over here. So this is the effect of this entire war and this negative or these uncertainties on precious metals and commodities. Crude oil is something important that we have to watch. Gold and silver, avoid it till now until unless we see the important levels that we have marked on Friday's session. 2,62,000 for silver and for gold we had the important level of 1,64,000 for every 10 grams. Yes.
Got it. Got it. I think that was perfect market wrap up. Before we close up, do you have anything else to add?
Just one thing that we've talked about already for everybody who's trading futures and options, because I know There are a lot of young minds, there are a lot of curious minds who are very interested in futures and options, and they're very fascinated by the 200% rally in put prices and 100% rally in call prices. They think that maybe they can double their capital within a day or two without doing a lot of hard work. Well, just a little heads up for them, does not work that way. It's not that easy. Maybe if you get lucky, you can capture such uncertain moves which maybe come out of nowhere. But do not like pray and hope for your money to get doubled every time like this every week. Create multiple leg strategies, study option chain, learn the option theta that we'll talk about in the upcoming sessions as well. We talked about theta today. We'll talk about delta, gamma, and other option Greeks in the upcoming sessions, in these market wrap up sessions, so that young minds and curious minds can really get to understand how does option chain work, how does option trading work, and as always, create multiple strategies. Do not carry any overnight positions in such uncertain markets. Look out for the key important levels that we talk about in our market wrap up sessions. And definitely, please stay in touch with the registered experts on ZBuy's advisors.
Perfect, perfect. Ajit, thank you so much for spending your time and giving us your insights today. Let's catch up on Wednesday, 4 p.m.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.